Welcome to Talent Matters, the podcast where talent, skills and grit take centre stage. I'm Donal O'Donoghue and this is episode 28. The podcast is sponsored by Sanderson, talent solutions that transform businesses globally. In this episode, I'm delighted to be joined by somebody you may know from Instagram as Modern Irish Mom. It is Lisa O'Sullivan Shaw. You're very welcome to Talent Matters, Lisa. How are you?
Hi, Donal. Thank you very much for having me.
Delighted to see you. So, as we always do, we love to start off getting a bit of context and learning about your life growing up. So, tell us a little about where you're from.
So, I am from a small village in North Kerry called Ballyduff, massive GA village, surrounded by a cluster of other GA villages where everyone knows everyone. So, I grew up there in Ballyduff and I'm now living in County Meath.
Indeed. And tell us a little bit about your early life.
So I was born with a heart condition called pulmonary stenosis. It's a congenital heart condition. My parents didn't know I was going to be born with it. So the day I was born, I was taken to Cork University, and then from there I was flown to Dublin. And I was baptised before I went off because I was on the way out that night. And I remained in Crumlin for the first few months of my life, and I had open heart surgery, my first open heart surgery at 6 weeks old.
Oh wow, that must have been so tough for your parents.
Yeah. Well, it was at a stage as well, and at a time where you didn't have anything like the Ronald McDonald House, you didn't have accommodation for parents. So basically, my parents didn't come up very often. You know, they came up and had to go home again, kind of on the train, like something would be unimaginable to me as a mother of four.
Yeah.
You know, to do. So my childhood was very uneventful cardiac wise.
Yeah.
You know, and I just went on and just lived a normal life and started modelling at 14 and went on to win Miss Ireland Universe and represented Ireland. And it never really took effect until after I had my children. There was a stint there where I lived in New York for a while, met my husband, we came home, built a house, got married and had 4 baby boys in 4 years. And it wasn't until after then that things kind of went really downhill.
Well, take us back to the early days. So what was school like for you?
School was a very mixed kind of vibe. I now know what I experienced was bullying. At the time, it would have been deemed jealousy. But from that side of it, it was not a nice experience.
Was that more in the later years, like secondary school?
Secondary school, yeah. I mean, I started modelling when I was 14. And that wouldn't help my situation down in North Kerry. I was quite tall, I suppose, for my age. Like I was probably the same height I am now, 5'8", in first year. And it was like a bunch of older girls. And it just was very uncomfortable until they left. And then when they left and I had 5th year and 6th year, you know, it was more of an enjoyable experience. Yeah.
And was it more kind of emotional kind of or physical bullying or what?
More verbal.
Yeah.
You know, and things written on the walls and, you know, slut and whore and all that kind of stuff. And
just pure jealousy.
Well, it really amazed me because I was going out with the same guy from the age of 14 until I was 23. So I had a steady relationship. But these, you know, these stories and these words kept coming. But I do think it has stood to me, you know, it has stood to me in my outlook and the way I live my life now.
And what were you into during the teenage years, whether subjects you were interested in or extracurricular stuff? What kind of kid were you?
Well, our life in North Kerry revolved around the GA. We live and breathe it down there. Every side of my family are involved. My cousins still play. My dad used to play, so we were reared on it.
So no Dubs supporters?
Absolutely not. Kerry woman, Kerry woman, out and out.
We'll forgive you that for today.
But you know, and it was a time in the 80s and 90s where you're going back to rural Ireland, and your life was school, going to mass, and the GA. And I still have those. I have very strong faith. I call myself a pick and mix Catholic because I pick what I like. So all that has stood to me. But that would have been my teenage upbringing.
And tell us about then getting into modelling at 14. How did that come about?
there was a local lady, Caroline Lee, who did knitwear at the time, and she just asked me to take a few photos, and the photos turned into doing fashion shows. Then it turned into joining agencies when I was in college, and I was really, really busy in college with it. I was in Cork and I was doing 3 shows a week, and I was flying from college to shows, and then that led me on to the Miss Ireland competition.
And tell us about that then, the path that took you on.
Yeah, that was a fabulous experience in my life. Like, I am very ferociously patriotic. I'm very proud to be Irish. I carry that everywhere with me. And it was like the ultimate achievement for me. And I always said, standing on that stage in South America as with the Ireland sash on, my God, if I died now, I'd die happy. You know, I was just an immense experience, and it brought me such maturity, and it brought me such contentment, I think, because I always said you could come away from a competition like that going 2 ways. One would be, God, I'll never be happy with myself. Look at all the 90 other countries. She has this, she has that. Or you can go, God, yeah, I'm not that bad. I like me. You know, so, and that's the route I decided to take.
Yeah, and what kind of opportunities came out of that then after you came back?
Well, modelling in Ireland still was very, it wasn't a career for me at the time. It was always much a sideliner. I did model full time in Ireland after it, but I broke up from the long-term relationship, and I said, I need to get out of this place. I need to go to New York.
Oh, wow.
We had gone on a holiday to New York, and I had said, I need to go back to that place. So I went on a holiday for a few weeks, and I said, this is me. This is where I need to be. I didn't pursue any modelling or anything while I was out there. I did get stopped in the street a few times with cards and castings and stuff like that, but I wasn't in the frame of mind for that at the time. And then I had the Irish Immigration Centre, it was called Emerald Isle, I think, at the time, where I was living in Queens. They contacted me. They heard there was a Miss Ireland living in the neighbourhood. They said, we have a contact in Trump Towers. We can get you in there and we can get you sorted and whatever. And I said, okay, sure, I'll go along anyway. Went along, and I went to Trump Towers, and when I was going up the elevator, all the crowd from The Apprentice were coming down, and I had there was a time when there was no social media. So I had no great interest in any of this. I went in and I met the head of HR, and they offered me an internship there and then. And I kind of was like, you were kind of going to be a slave to Trump Towers if you were an intern. And I was like, you know what, I think I'll stay out in the bars in Queens. And I never took it. I never took that opportunity. And I always think, they could have been the Kerry woman in the White House.
You never know. So what was your favourite moments, or what was the best thing that happened to you from your time in New York?
I think absolutely finding myself and knowing what I wanted in life and knowing what I didn't want, and just the utter independence and the freedom of living away from, you know, small town, small village, that kind of scenario. It was so breathtaking to let people accept you as you are. You know, and just take you at face value, and nobody knew your history or whatever. And it was genuine friendships, and still to that I have to this day. And then, of course, I met my husband, and I have 4 children, and I thank New York for my 4 children.
So you guys met in New York and then
met in New York,
back.
All the way to New York to meet an Irishman. It was always going to be an Irishman, though. Yeah. You know, met in Gaelic Park and all of those places where there was a massive Irish community where I lived, and I loved that. I loved the sense of family. All you knew was someone's first name and their county. But there was such a lovely camaraderie there. But yeah, we came home in the boom. Everyone was telling us, come home, because you're going to make a fortune. And then we came home and we realised the banks own everything. What are you all talking about? Yeah. So yeah, New York has owes me nothing. Yeah.
And then you obviously started the family shortly enough after you came back, was it?
Yeah, we got married in 2010. We came back in 2006 actually, but we took us ages, the usual, trying to get planning permission. So we built the house and got married, and then had our first baby. I spent my first wedding anniversary in the maternity hospital. And that didn't stop there. We had 4 baby boys in 4 years. I had
you had 4 under 4 at one stage.
4 under 4. I had 2 under 2, 3 under 3, 4 under 4. That was, and I look back and I was, oh my God, who was she? How did you get through that? But it was the most amazing experience, and I thank God every day that I was able to be at home with my children, and that I got 7 years at home with them. And I think that has stood me so much. And I think there's a really untapped talent market there between, you know, stay-at-home mums who have, I mean, if you want to talk organisation, talk to a stay-at-home mum who has multiple young kids and then can go into an office. And it has made me, I went back to work when my youngest went to preschool, and it's made me such a better worker because you're enjoying that time.
Yeah.
That you're out. Now, I only work part-time. I'm blessed to work part-time, and I think it's a fabulous mix. So I enjoy going out. And you're able to multitask so much better. And yeah, I just think there's just such a wealth of cop on in you know, from those women.
And what happened then? See, your health suffered again around the time of having the kids.
Yeah, well, you see, I was given a window basically when we got married, and I was constantly going for my cardiac checkups, and they said, oh, you're getting married now, and they said, look, if you're going to have your family, if you want to have a family, you should probably have them around now. I was getting married at 29, and I never had foreseen an open heart surgery again. It wasn't on the cards at all, and my pregnancies were high risk, but I performed really well. My heart performed really well under the pregnancies, and there was never any trouble. But it was when my youngest was about 2, and we were kind of getting into the routine stage, but I was getting tireder, and I was, you know, shortness of breath and all the usual little things. So the investigation started, and very long.
And did you know that they were symptoms that your heart might have been under pressure and struggling?
To be honest, no, I just thought this was motherhood because, you know, it was such a busy house, and, you know, it was just such a busy time in my life. I never thought, you know, I thought, you know, you're just not sleeping right or whatever. But, you know, they did some cardiac MRIs, angiograms, all that kind of stuff. And still, it was never on the cards until I got that phone call Christmas week, the Christmas 2018, to say, we have tried all options, and the only way to get your new valve in is to do open heart surgery. Now, before that, I didn't even know, you know, there was only an appointment to say, doctors came in and they all sat down and they looked kind of serious, and they said, your valve, you need a new valve now. It needs to be changed. But don't worry, we can do it through the groin, because cardiac surgery now is done a lot through the groin or through the neck or through the top here, the top of the chest.
Yeah. Far less invasive than open heart.
Like
surgery,
open heart is barbaric, and it's kind of like the last resort. So it was never on the cards. So it was a massive shock to say, okay, next week is Christmas week. We'll see you in the first week after that, and we'll plan your surgery.
Wow. So it was pretty urgent.
Yeah, I mean, they call it a planned surgery, but I mean, I had to have it as soon as possible, you know, as soon as it was feasible. So I had it about 2 or 3 months later, because we had to organise kids and we had to wait for a break in the school, because it was going to be a long recovery. And we had to think of all those things, because I was up in County Meath, my family are in Kerry. My husband really only has his parents over the road, which they're not elderly, but they're not, you know, spring chickens either.
It's a lot.
It was a lot. You have to consider all aspects of, you know, how is it going to work for the family.
So how did it work? So talk to us a little bit about that recovery. What was the recovery like? What were the challenges like? How did you manage?
I would say the recovery in one word was horrific for me. And it was, and I don't mean to scare anyone going on that journey, that was just my experience. And I would say it was more mentally challenging than physically challenging. Now, I had the physical side of it was quite painful for me, and I don't think I got control of that pain. And I think that led to a lot of my mental anguish, because the pain for me was out of control. They had to switch a lot of meds. I couldn't take the OxyContin and all that. I just, it didn't agree with me. So like I couldn't hit the spot. And it led then on to like a mental decline, which was every aspect of everything in life. I expected bad news. I expected, this is it now. I'm on the way out now. Every ache, every pain was, this is it. You know, I turned into a complete hypochondriac. And I eventually went back to see my heart surgeon, who was the guy who performed my surgery on me. And he was actually a Kerryman. And I just told him, I said, my life is ruined. I can look forward to nothing. What did you do to me, basically? And he just said, you have to control it and do not let it control you, and you have to live your life. And literally I walked out and I said, okay, I'm going to take control of my life. I have very conscious I had small people watching. I needed to show them like resilience and just how to deal with tough situations and how we can do hard things if we need to do hard things.
And what was the hardest part? Was it the pain management afterwards, or was it like the physical changes, or what were the toughest parts in the recovery?
So physically, it was extremely painful for me. And I said, why is it so painful? And he said, well, you're a 36-year-old woman. Usually these open heart surgeries are done on grown big men, who don't have as much nerve, sensitivity. So it was the physical there. But the mental, I think, was I could go in the morning. I could be gone in the morning. What'll happen to my boys?
Yeah.
Who'll be their mummy? My father, my husband is an excellent father, but he's not their mummy. And it really destroyed me mentally, thinking, I suppose beforehand, they're going to stop my heart for 4 hours. What if they can't get me going again? What if I have a stroke?
That's incredible. They stop your heart for 4 hours.
They stop your heart for 4 hours and working it. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And that goes through your mind. And I mean, I had pre-appointments with him and I said, how are you going to open my chest? He said, do you want to know? And I said, yeah. He said, electric saw. So you have an electric saw going down and it's cutting your sternum bone. So you can imagine you're okay with the physical side of that. That is going to heal. But the mental side of you is, so what happens now if this doesn't work? And what's my life going to look like? I had a fantastic life pre this. I was at home with my babies. I would be an extrovert in like, I'm well able to talk to people and communicate. But I'm also that introvert side where I love to be at home and just at home with the family and leave me alone. And I'll sit here and I'll have my quiet life just, but the cardiac was having other ideas. It was like, no, you need to, this is your lot now and you need to deal with it.
So how did you deal with it after that conversation and after saying, right, I need to take control of it and I need to make some changes? What steps did you take?
So initially, in my initial recovery, I was so frightened of everything. I was so frightened to get into a car if my husband was going anyway fast. I would be petrified. I was afraid to go back driving. I was given the all clear 12 weeks. I didn't go back and I would love to drive. But so little steps at the beginning. Everything is just baby steps. I was doing everything I was told when you had to do these walks, 5-minute walks around your house, and I was doing them. And then I increased it to going back to the gym, which I love, and just step by step trying to get more back to my own life and taking control of that. So,
okay, talk to me about the anxiety that you deal with in that situation and how you manage that.
So I'd never had a panic attack in my life until about a week after coming out of hospital. And I didn't know what was happening. My husband didn't know what was happening. I actually physically felt like I'm having a heart attack. And so we rang the hospital because my husband said at one stage, I don't know, I'm a plumber. I don't know what's happening her, So it was just such a powerful thing. Like when you're having a panic attack, and I would have had one on and off throughout that period, and I had one very recently at an MRI a few weeks ago, and I couldn't believe it. My body, when you're in that panic attack state, you cannot take over your body. Your body has to just get rid of it and it has to just deal with it. But mentally, I can take control by grounding myself, doing simple things like, right, I know I'm going to suffer after this panic attack. I know it's going to take me a day or two, because your body's gone through a little shock where it's thinking it's been attacked. It's having this heart attack, but it's not really, but your brain can't differentiate.
The first one is the worst, isn't it? Where Because you don't know it's a panic attack.
I don't know. And he put me to bed and my whole body was shaking and it was jittering. And I remember there was something on TV.
You think you're dying. You think you're on the way out, don't you?
I absolutely thought, and I could get no control of it. But when when I had the one a few weeks ago on the MRI, I couldn't believe the way I still could not get control of my body. I still could not talk myself down out of it. Now, it was shorter, and the recovery from it, even though it takes a while to leave your body. So the next day I was really still and silent with myself. I went to the gym, I did my workout, I went for a walk. I barely said 5 words at home to my husband and my kids, but I just had to calm myself out of it. And then it does come back,
One of the interesting things out of your story and your journey and everything else is that you started to share it on Instagram. Mm-hmm. Tell us a bit about that.
So I was, for about 1.5 years, 2 years after my surgery, I was given out. There was no help. Literally, as my husband said last night, we were rethinking the story and retalking it, and he said, I was wheeled down on a wheelchair I had my surgery in the Mater Private, and I was just left in the waiting room for him to go get the car. There was no services afterwards for the mental side of it. What has just happened to me? What is happening to me? Why is nobody talking about this? And I just thought, my God, what the women that have breast cancer in this country, the amounts of them, where is the help there? And I have a lot of followers that have different health issues, and they would contact me and say, oh my God, that's it. There is nobody to talk to. That's the way I felt. That's the way I feel. So I started my page called Modern Irish Mum. And I said, right, I'm just going to start talking about, does anyone else feel like this? Does anyone else? And my following just grew and grew and grew. And then I went back into my modelling side. I tapped into that. I started showing looks for boutiques. I've since rejoined Assets at the grand old age of 43. And because I was doing a lot of fashion shows anyway, and I have taken into doing comedy reels that show like different aspects, I suppose, of Irish life and Irish families and parenting. And I get messages. My DMs would be flooded with people going, "My God, that's me too," because sometimes we're afraid to say what we're thinking, or we're afraid, that we do this too at home. But there's, nobody wants to be judged, so.
And what is the message when you think about, because you have a great following now on Instagram, and it's really sharing positivity, isn't it? Like what do you think is the essence of the message that you're communicating to your followers?
It's, I suppose, never give up, always keep going. When things are bad, acknowledge they're bad, but there's a way out. If there's an actual, feasible way out, like for me, I knew I was going to recover from my open heart surgery, but I had to deal with all the stuff that, I had to mentally get around all the other feelings that I was feeling. I just had to deal with it. And then I said, right, you can take this and go live your life. And my message to a lot of people is, go live your life. Don't be worrying what others are thinking, what others are saying, because believe me, when you are in that bed in ICU, you won't be thinking about what Mary said about you in 5th year. Or you won't be thinking about what the neighbours have down the road or whatever. Just focus on you, your family, and I'm telling you, you will be a lot richer for it.
Yeah, it is. It's that living in the moment thing and appreciating each day, isn't it? So I'd love to hear a little bit about how you balance everything between creating content, working, the 4 boys. So tell us a little bit how you manage to balance everything.
Life is chaos in my house, but a happy chaos. So I would be super organizer. I'm a super organizer. I have everything, like Christmas will start now in my head next month, and it will be done and dusted by November. But all our boys are out every day of the week. They play GA soccer, and you just have to, I suppose, prioritize what needs to be done first. I have 1 day a week where I like to record my content. But as anyone knows that has a page, your page is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's always open. People are messaging you 24/7.
Are you addicted to it?
I try not to be. I would say I'm not. I'd say I'm a really good. I have it under control that I don't like. We take for example, we went on holidays for 2 weeks to the States. We brought the boys in May.
Lovely.
Their first time ever. This was going to be our big family holiday, and we'd been waiting for it for years. And I said, you know what? I'm going to come offline for 2 weeks. I had all my stuff scheduled, pre-taped, everything, and I could have chosen the option of let's show everybody what we're doing every day in Boston and in New York and whatever. And I said, no, I don't let it control me like that. We really enjoyed in the moment, in the time. We took videos, we took pictures of places we were at, but nothing was at the forefront of thinking this would be great content. And I know people, I follow pages and I've seen pages that like, I'm thinking, did you just spend any of your holiday? Just enjoying the holiday. So I do things like that. I don't think I'm addicted, although my husband might disagree. But I think I plan it out right when the boys are in bed. I'm going to sit here now for my 2 or 3 hours, and it takes 2 or 3 hours to
do you do
reply.
all your own editing and all your
everything?
Own
I mean, sometimes when you're shooting for shops and boutiques, the easiest part is actually going shooting there for the few hours. Then you're coming home and you're editing, you're putting things together, and you're adding descriptions, and it's hours and hours and hours of work that people don't see, and they think they have the solution, like, oh, she's a great time. But it's like a second job.
Yeah.
That's very unpaid and pays very badly.
Yeah. But it creates opportunities for you though as well.
It does. And I mean, I enjoy this side of it. I enjoy telling my story. I enjoy, anytime a radio station rings to like, can you give us a little soundbite here on your opinion on this and that? I've done a bit of it with News Talk. And I enjoy all that aspect of it. Because again, I am an open book at the minute, waiting for that opportunity to just come by. And I believe it will.
What would you love that to look like when you think about future goals and where you'd like to see things going?
Yeah, as I say, I am a total open book into, I don't know where that niche is. I know I'm a great communicator. I know I can do TV, radio, but that's not something that I'm avidly, following at the minute. I mean, I have worked with, I'm actually one of the regional judges for the Rose Tree. So I love that kind of, that kind of corporateness as well. So I don't have if you pin me down, I would say, okay, I want to work with Board Fáilte and I want to promote Ireland, and, I could do things like that. But equally, I would love to be going around to schools and talking about, how if we could just get teenagers into the mind frame of please don't waste your life and your young years worrying about what others are doing or thinking or saying, which is a natural part of teenage years. But if you could just get them into that mind frame, don't worry about any of that. There's way bigger things to come.
Yeah, I think we're of a generation where we really want to protect our kids. And I think when you've been through the school system, and some parts of school days, secondary school, are brilliant. And as you said, some parts are horrible.
Yeah.
Because everybody goes through the phase where, you're isolated from the group, or, you're dealing with bullying and things like that. But I think we're the generation now that wants to kind of protect our kids from that. But actually they need to build their own resilience. And that's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very fine line of where, sometimes I could have the four of them in the car and we would be booting it down that road into school. And I'd be like turning around going, oh my God, you never put on the clean socks. And their immediate response to me is, well, Mammy, you always say to us, don't mind what anyone thinks of you. Be your own person. So I know already they have that. I just wish I had that. And I don't mind, they're going to face challenges. I don't want to be the helicopter parent around them. They need to go through those things. Yeah. And I think they're in sport and it does teach them those things.
It really does, doesn't it?
And we don't tell them, we don't sugarcoat it. We had 2 nights ago, they came home and they played shocking, and shockingly bad. And they were told, not in a, sit down, you must do better kind of thing, but they'll get both sides of it. And equally, they'll be told when they've done well. Yeah,
I would definitely agree with that. I think the days of the participation medal for everyone taking part, I'm not a fan of that.
No.
I think in life and in sport and in business, you learn more from the days where you don't perform well, or you learn more from your losses. than the days when everything goes your way. So I think they need that, don't they, to build their own strength.
Absolutely. And it's building resilience. And it's like, you know, you take that into any part of your life. It's like, God forbid you do have a health situation. You learn, okay, what do I do here now? I need to build myself back up. And I was very conscious of when I was going through that, I have to show them. And they do remember that and they hold that. And I do think they learn from that.
Yeah. The final thing I want to ask you, Lisa, is advice for, if you think about, we've got an audience of people, maybe younger people that are listening that might be going through some of the same challenges, health challenges. What's your advice to them?
My advice with health challenges is get control of the knowledge first of what actually is going on. How bad is the situation, basically? Because if it's anything that will be okay and that can be worked through, then just know there may be hard times now, but it will get better. And I know that phase is thrown around. I thought within my first 6 weeks of recovery, I thought I'd never take a deep breath again because I felt it was so painful. But just know it will get better, and take control of what's important and what, you know, do things kind of to please yourself, basically. You know, but I just think it is very important to just take control of the situation and know that things will get better, and they will, and you can do hard things.
Brilliant. I think you are sharing a really positive message. So anybody that wants to follow you or follow your content, they can find you on Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram, Modern Irish Mom.
Brilliant. Well, we will add that to the show notes. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming in and having a great chat.
No problem.
And if you've enjoyed the podcast, you can subscribe to our YouTube. It's at talentmatters_podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at talentmatters_podcast. Thanks again to Sanderson, our sponsors. And thanks, Lisa. And we'll see you next time.